church calendar ever laid out as a pie chart? You know that different times of year we wear different colored vestments and all the pyramids change. And if you laid it out on a pie chart, you would start at the top, with Advent. And in Advent, I wear a purple stole. They're reversible. Purple stole for 4 weeks. And then Christmas is white. And Christmas tide through Epiphany, which was a couple of weeks ago, is also white. Now, often there are two different traditions from this. One is sort of born out in the Eastern Orthodox Church, and one is more Western Roman Catholic. In the Eastern Church, which the Lutheran Church tends to follow, Epiphany is sort of a season unto itself, and it runs from the Epiphany, which is January 6th, which is the date that we acknowledge the wise men arriving at the stable. In the Eastern Orthodox Church, that is their Christmas. So we have that Christmas tide from December 25th to January 6th. And then that period of time between Epiphany and Ash Wednesday, where we move into Lent, we tend to just take Epiphany and just spread it all out across that stretch of time. And then we go into Lent, which is again purple, and that kind of curves down to the bottom of the clock where we come to Easter, which is white. And then we celebrate Easter tide, which is about 7 or 8 weeks up till Pentecost, which Jean decorates gloriously with flaming red streamers and banners, and we wear red paraments. And once that season is over, we go into green, which is called ordinary time. Ordinary time. Now, in the Catholic Church, that little piece of time between Epiphany and Lent is also referred to as ordinary time. And in honor of that tradition, I wore green today instead of white. Because as I read about this, I kind of said, I like this concept of ordinary time. And there's a really important reason for it. Ordinary, actually, in terms of a liturgical timekeeping, it's not about the days being boring. It's about the days being counted. It's from the root that we get ordinal, like we talk about ordinal numbers. It's that root that we come from. So it's a sense that we're just kind of ticking off the days to the next purple season or the next white season or the next rainy. That sense of things being just ordinary, that we just calendarize and carry on. But either way, when you approach this season, it has a really important innate value to us. Because when you think about the Christian year, a lot when you pastor churches, you have a phrase for people who come on Christmas and Easter. We used to call them C&Es. And so you had the sense that people really needed to have that presence of the birth of Christ in their lives. And then we skip over all of these 3 years or weeks in the Christian year to Easter. So there's a sense that we have high holy days. We have Christmas, and we have Epiphany, that Sunday of Epiphany, and we have Easter, and we have Pentecost, okay? And in our creeds, think about, we've been reciting creeds in this church for years, and we talk about believing in God and believing in Jesus. He was born of Mary, okay, and then crucified under Pontius Pilate, died, suffered, died, was buried, and rose again. And then we go, well, what about all those years in between? What happened there? What we tend to miss In our celebration of High Holy Days, we miss ordinary time. Just time. For Jesus, from the time he embarked on his ministry, at the imprisonment of John the Baptist, up until his own death, the church figures that it was a 3-year period that he was in ministry. 3 years, not very long. But what was he doing with all of that ordinary time? The first thing he did was he started preaching. Now, according to the reading today from Matthew, and again a little reminder, Matthew's gospel was written for the Jewish church, the early Jewish Christian church. All of the early Christians were Jews, converted Jews. And Matthew's gospel was written to place Jesus solidly in the fulfillment of Jewish prophecy. So a lot of times as we read through Matthew's gospel this year, you will hear him say, and this was done to fulfill the prophecy of Isaiah who said, la la la. And today it was that Jesus had left Nazareth and moved to Capernaum in the region of Zebulun and Naphtali in order to fulfill the prophet Isaiah's words about the people living in the area of Zebulun and Naphtali, the people who walked in darkness, okay? So, what we have happening is Jesus has been baptized by John. John has been a precursor, he's been an announcer, and he has also been a proclaimer of the coming of the kingdom. Repent, be baptized. The kingdom is coming upon you. Repent, be baptized. And interestingly enough, when John is in prison and Jesus comes forth into his own ministry and his own proclamation, it is repent. The same message that John preached. Now there are quite a few scholars out there that place John and Jesus both in the Essene communities. We talked about that before. There were 2 Essene communities. There was one that lived out in the wilderness, in the area where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. And then there was a more urban Essene population. They followed the same precepts, but they did not feel a call to be set apart, to be purified in that way by being set apart, but to live by those precepts in their daily lives. Now, John and Jesus, if you'll recall from our readings from Luke, are cousins. Mary and Elizabeth, John the Baptist's mother, were cousins. And you might recall from the stories through Advent that Mary went to visit Elizabeth, and Elizabeth's baby in her womb leaped in her womb because he recognized Jesus in Mary's womb. There's this wonderful moment of recognition. So, just a little backdrop there. So what you have happening here is John, very likely, we know because of his dress, the way he dressed, because of his diet, and because of the words he preached, that he was pretty solidly in line with the Essene community and the Essene doctrine. So when John is arrested and he's ultimately executed, Jesus takes up that preaching mantle because he's coming from that same place, that place of understanding repentance and understanding the importance of baptism and the importance of acknowledging the kingdom of God. So that's where he begins. He's begun his preaching ministry. He's picking up the mantle of John. And he's starting to wander the countryside preaching. Now Luke put him in the synagogue. He's started his preaching ministry in the synagogue. For Matthew, he's kind of out in the home country, up and down the hills and preaching. And this is Jesus' ordinary time. He knows what he has to do, and he's doing it. And while he's wandering, and he's on the hills and the dales, and he's walking along the shore, he meets two brothers who are fishermen. And this is a strange thing when you think about it. As you're fishing, or you're in your boat, you brought your boat ashore, whatever, emptying your nets, and Jesus, as a man you may or may not have seen before because he's new to the neighborhood, having just moved there, comes up to you and says, "Follow me." And so they do. And the three of them carry on down the shore, and there's Andrew and Simon Peter. I'm sorry, those are the first. Then James and John. And he says the same to them. Very likely they knew Simon and Peter because they're all fishermen, and they all kind of in the same area doing the same work. And they just drop the nets, leave their father in the boat. Can imagine the look on his face as they walked away. And there's the beginning. There's the beginning. Now, what I like about ordinariness and ordinary time is that Jesus did not go looking for superheroes, nor did he see himself as a superhero. There is a lot of superhero action on our planet right now. I know for those in my age and around that, above, maybe slightly below, I don't go to a lot of movies, but I'm aware of what's out there. All of the Marvel Comics movies, all of the things that are based on Superman, Batman, Iron Man, the Avengers, all of these people with incredible powers that are out there saving us from evil, okay? And I was having a conversation with Dana about this, my daughter, who's in film, and she paints movie sets. And we were having this talk about this, and we were talking about it in the context of the U.S. political campaign. And she said, if you look back, if you do the backstories on a lot of these heroes, like Batman and like Iron Man, who were they? They were billionaires. And their persona, their superhero persona was like a secret identity, okay? So you never were supposed to know that Batman was Bruce Wayne and Iron Man was the guy whose name I can never remember, okay? Robert Downey Jr. That's the only one. Okay, but the idea is that the world is in turmoil and only one billionaire can save it. And what is his name? Donald Trump. And we both kind of hit that realization at the same time, and whoa, Hollywood has been sitting very comfortably in the pockets of a lot of rich men, laying out these amazingly filmed mythologies of how the earth is saved by that one single billionaire. And you know what? That is his message. America is in trouble, and I'm the only one who can save it. That's been the message. I've been hearing it in so many ways. I will do this, and I will do this, and I will do this, and we will make America great again. Interesting. Not Jesus' style. So he's starting to find his followers. He's starting to build his community of faith and support. Fishermen, they actually do pretty good business. They're okay. They're pretty middle class people. And we don't know, we do have this Matthew that was a tax collector. I don't know a lot about the other ones, what backgrounds he might have had. Those aren't the ones that are lifted up for us to look at. But the idea is that they were all coming from just who they are, ordinary people. Ordinary people who had an extraordinary meeting with one man who said, "Follow me. Be part of what I do." That's what Jesus did with ordinary time. He preached. He taught. He cured diseases. He healed people. He built a community of faith. He became politically dangerous and a threat to Jewish leadership and to Rome. In fact, when we skip from birth to death, in our creeds and in our observances, we miss that whole rich, rich time. We miss those stories. We miss those sermons on the Mount. We miss those interactions. We miss Jesus looking at his disciples like, "What? Have you heard nothing?" Okay? We miss the disciples going, "Who do you think gets to sit at Jesus' right hand?" Okay, we miss the humanness. We miss the ordinariness of the story, and that's where the beauty lies. Because unlike a billionaire superhero, there is no ego in any of this. Okay? There is no sense that I alone can save the world. Because Jesus wasn't here to point to himself. He was here to point to God. But God can't do a darn thing unless we say yes. Unless we say yes. The church I grew up in had is a very famous picture of Jesus knocking at a door. There's this door, and Jesus is knocking at the door. And I think I was probably about 10 or so when someone stood with me and looked at that picture, and they say, "Do you see the light around this picture? Do you see what it does?" And the person who had painted this picture had brought the light on the door in such a way as to create a heart. So the light around the door is shaped like a heart. It's a very famous picture. You could probably just Google it, and there it is. And that was a painting based on the scripture, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock." Okay. All he can do is knock. All he can do is look at you and go, "Follow me." But it's up to you and it's up to me to say yes. And we do it not because we have a lot of money, not because we have superpowers, not because we have really anything at all, except our ordinary selves. That is what makes us so lovable to God. Not our greatness, not our incredible skills and talents, but our ordinary selves. That would say, "Yeah, I'll follow you. Sure, I'll follow you. Okay." Because you don't know where he's going, and you don't know where he's going to take you. But because you are just an ordinary person, and when he looks into your eyes, he invites you to put aside your ego and your accomplishments and your great talents and skills, and simply say, "Okay." Now, it's not to say that Jesus isn't going to use your talents, gifts, or skills. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is whole you, including the parts of you which are gifted, skilled, talented, that you may not even know about yet. And sometimes the call is to take your gifts and your skills and to bless the world with them. But then sometimes it's also to reach a point in your life when you go, oh, wait a minute, I think there's something else in store for me. And you might put some of what you did on a back burner, or maybe on a top shelf where you can still reach it if you need it. And then you say, okay, to something new, and something different, and something that might be challenging, and something that you know you don't do really well, but you feel God really wants you to do it. And there's nothing like following that path. If you have any ego around anything you can do for God, just not going to happen when God puts you on a new path. That's when you learn to trust implicitly and explicitly and know that I am just an ordinary person. And everything I do by the grace of God. I love the idea of being ordinary. I love the idea of ordinary time. Because ordinary time can set you up for such extraordinary experiences. And extraordinary meetings with amazing other people who see themselves as pretty ordinary too. So I invite you to wear your green at some point over the next few weeks. And remind yourself that, yeah, I'm pretty ordinary. But that's okay, because God loves that.